Welcome to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee. Thank you for joining us for these conversations at the intersection of arts, culture, and community. Today, I'm excited to be in conversation with my next guest, a sought-after television personality, pop culture commentator, content creator, celebrity blogger, and motivational speaker who is also an expert on topics ranging from race and politics to television and film. Please welcome the great Lisa Durden. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey y'all. Hey.
I love it. I love the intro. So again, thank you for making the time and coming on. I know we're, recording this. It's all of these different things that come up. So definitely when folks have the time to come on and chat with me, that I can just pester you with questions, I'm super excited. So before we delve into like the deeper conversation, I think there's a lot of strength, a lot of power, and a lot of like energy giving folks that space to, introduce themselves, share who they are. Like I've had folks come on and I give the full like line by line introduction, and they'll say, well, you left out I'm a human. You left out on this. So I like to like give that back to the guests when they come on. So if you will, the floor is yours. Please, could you introduce yourself?
I'm always grateful. I don't get into the picayune of being introduced. If a person says what they say, I take that as I'm grateful. But since you want me to do it myself, I know me more than anybody knows me. I'm the expert on Lisa Durden. That's a hashtag, by the way. So basically, I'm guess what they call these days a multi-hyphenate. So I'm actually in my origins a journalist, and I went to Seton Hall University and got a degree in broadcast journalism. And then over the course of time, my bonus career became being a producer. And of course, I've directed some things, but I do mostly producing, mostly in what they call the factual space, documentaries, factual television, documentary series. I have done a couple of scripted things where people have written scripts, and I've been the producer of some of those items as well, which I actually love scripted things more than documentaries because documentaries, it takes 1,000,000 years to finish them. So I prefer scripted. So I got into that in that world in that way. I got into the producing thing kind of like intentionally, but by mistake. There was an experience I had where I was hosting a magazine show here in the state of New Jersey called Brick City. Everything in Newark is Brick City. And I felt like the director of the show, Brick City, tried to position a Black organization who we were doing a segment on as Black. The name of the organization was called Renaissance Golf, right around the time when Tiger Woods was huge, when he first came on the scene. So there was a lot of Black kids everywhere USA wanting to play golf. So we did a segment on this organization called Renaissance Golf here in New Jersey. Sure. And it was a man that started this golf organization to teach kids how to play golf. Well, in Newark, New Jersey, most of the people here are Black. It's a Black, big black city. So when I pitched the idea to the director, Al Clark, and said, hey, let's do this segment, he said, great. We took the cameras out and saw the kids play golf. I wrote the script for the intro. We interviewed the two founders in the studio. The whole segment was packaged. I'm sitting in front of the teleprompter, as you know. The director is in the control room, and I'm reading the teleprompter. I wrote the script, and I say, hello, and welcome to Brick City. I'm your host, Lisa Durden, and on today's show, and I saw it said Urban Golf. The record scratched. I'm like, it's Renaissance Golf. Now, I wasn't the Lisa Durden I am today. I was a little less the Durdster. My nickname or my alter ego is called the Durdster. My friend Iris gives me this alter ego. So without making a long story long, I'll make a long story short. Basically, this man, Al Clark, literally renamed the organization on the fly. I'm guessing the reason was they wanted folks to know that Negroes were about to be seen on screen when you were going to see them anyway. But what made you like literally do the whole Toby Kunta Kinte thing? Yeah. My name is, your name is Toby, but he said his name was Kunta Kinte. Who do you get to rename this person? He literally tried to rename the organization on the fly. Another name. It's literally called Renaissance Inc. So I'm like, it's called Renaissance Golf Inc. Please change it on the teleprompter. He says, well, what does it matter? I said, but it does matter. So since it doesn't matter to you, change the name. He's cursing in the background and saying, okay, I'll change it. So that's kind of like when I decided, oh, this is what they say about Black people telling their own stories. Because when we see them tell it, white folks tell it, and we don't like how they're telling it, then they're going to tell it to make it in such a way that they feel it's palatable for them. So that's what made me decide to start producing my own content. So I said, after this, I'm not going to pitch any more concepts to this man. If I see something that I think is a good concept, I'm going to produce it myself. And that's how I literally became, officially, or like by mistake, but on purpose, a documentary filmmaker or filmmaker. And so fast forward, I've done some independent things on my own. Then, the guerrilla style thing, you go broke. And I have now been a freelance producer. I get paid to produce your projects. If you have one, it's like getting any kind of job. You apply. Sometimes it's a referral. They like your resume. They hire you. You work for them and you move on. So I've done a bit of both, and I still like doing both. So that's kind of how I became a filmmaker as well. So I still do the journalism thing. I just did a crime show. I love crime shows for ABC News that dropped the first week of December 2023. A sad story, but it was still a very good project for me because it kind of like I went full circle here. So I went full circle in all of my skill sets were present in this 1 2-hour documentary special. I usually am doing something either on TV or behind the scenes. This time I'm doing them all in one. So it was a story called, they usually make these kind of like, these crime shows, they have a good title. So it was called Diary of a Killer. So this man in New Jersey murdered his baby mama and handwrote an entire diary outlining all the details of he murdered her and, gave reasons why and the whole nine. He said it was, self-defense, but of course, James raised the man's name. He went to trial and he got convicted. And then actually he was found dead in his cell right before the sentencing of a drug overdose. It's still being investigated. We don't know if he committed suicide with drugs or what happened, but he since died. So that actually came out on December 6th. It's called Diary of a Murder. It was on ABC News 2020. I was the producer of one of the producers of the documentary. It was a 2-hour documentary. And then I was also an ABC News contributor in front of the camera. So it was a really good project. So that was an opportunity for me to showcase all my skill sets. So that was my most recent, project that I'm very proud of.
Wow. Thank you. I'm trying to keep track, right? Because what happens, right? When I interview folks and then they have just look, I got it. You're a media professional. I'm sitting here like, all right, let me organize my notes. And I'm like, all right, cool.
We can just talk. We just gonna talk, boo. Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really cool. And I notice we both did the same face thing, in this visual media when it's like, oh, it's urban golf. It's like, what? And I run into this just to kind of set the stage a little bit. My background, I've been doing this podcast thing for about 15 years.
Long before it was popular. Mm-hmm.
Right. And I've heard you don't look like a podcaster. I've heard all of the different things. And I have folks who, don't look like us will, kind of question sort of my validity on. I have folks who look like us who will question my blackness or my authenticity. And it's a very interesting way to go about things. And it's just like, I have a large swath of interests and folks that I can engage in conversation with and have cool conversations with. But it's like this sort of constant push and pull of trying to realize my vision. And I think sort of the notion of, I want to produce my own stuff. I've done those things on a much smaller scale, but hey, I can help you realize your vision. Here's my skill set. I got 700 episodes of this podcast, as reference,
Yep.
And, getting to that spot where I don't audition anymore, or whatever that might look like.
Yep.
But yeah, engaging in the conversation, it can be very frustrating in that,
yes.
You'll hear, oh, you're an influencer. Oh, you're a Black media outlet. And it's like, you guys are using weird terminologies. Yes, I'm this, but I'm able to do this, 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 and this.
Right.
But I appreciate you, sharing that story because it also ties into the sort of the introduction piece, the importance of a name, the importance of how we present ourselves to the audiences that are going to encounter our stuff.
Yep.
When I do this pod or when I do guest shots and things of that nature, I I don't get out of pocket, you know, go real left. Everything is a 4-letter word. It's like, that's not what I do. That's not my brand at all. You know, and that it's just something about it. And then I see other folks who do different things and maybe kind of get that push. And it's like, you guys are presenting this, but it's like OD. You're making sort of that brand and that type of media look weird. It's like that's
Mhm,
not even what you do. It's just like you're trying to play a role that's been
mhm,
scripted for you.
I understand exactly what you're saying. Mhm.
So I want to go back a little bit.
Yes.
So was that the job that you were describing with the golf situation? Was that one of your first media jobs? Was that your first?
That was my first on-camera job, on-camera position as the host of the magazine show. So I was also kind of what you would call segment producing, but at the time I was a little bit younger. I didn't know that that's what I was doing. So they used me. It's not a problem because I wanted to. When I graduated from Seton Hall University, I was thinking about being the next Sue Simmons. Of course, if you know, you know. So she's been retired for not that long actually. She wasn't retired until like maybe like the 20 teens, somewhere around there. But then over time, I realized that I'm not really like that staunch, broadcaster. And then, over the course of, years, social media has put all anchor people in positions now where now we want personalities. Now we don't want them to be so stiff and I'm just telling the facts and I don't have emotion. So I kind of like stuck with it long enough to be able to breathe new life into my what you call fledgling career because now we have uh, commentators and we have contributors and we have all of these different ways in which we consume content and we engage in media. So that's kind of how I went from there to here. So that was my first job. Then over time, once I started to kind of like produce things, it was kind of weird. It was a little hard to get on camera opportunities until like very recently when people started looking for people like to be split screen and debating with each other. So for about a good 10 years or so, I couldn't get on camera. I couldn't, buy an on camera opportunity. So I was still doing, I did the Brick City show for about 4 years. And then I just got a public access show. You don't get paid. And I was hosting my own show, the Lisa Durden Show, because I wanted to stay on camera and keep my chops oiled. But I began to do more work around production. So I seem to have gotten more opportunities as a producer. Once I started producing my own content, then people saw that I had the skills and I would get freelance jobs. So mostly the freelance or the production world has paid me more than the TV opportunities. However, fast forward, now that we're in this place in our society where we see a lot of chatter, a lot of things online, I have kind of like gotten a bit a little bit of a balance with both, but I'm still getting more opportunities as a producer, obviously, that pays more of the bills, but it's still a good look. But that was my first, yeah. And then since then, I've been on Revolt TV. You see me there very often. I'm a contributor there, talking about obviously hot topics and politics. I've been on obviously different shows on Fox News, not just the Tucker Carlson show. I've been on Fox. I've long before Tucker Carlson. I've been on Fox and Friends. I've been on Megyn Kelly had a show called The Kelly Files. I've been on those shows. I've been on Pix 11 Morning News, talking about different things from the lady who played Black when she was working for the NAACP, and I was talking about those topics. I talked about um, uh, 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 when Whitney Houston passed away, Michael Jackson, all those kinds of things. I've been on the Dr. Phil show, Dr. Oz show, doing segments about, oh, my eyelashes got glued down, and oh my God, help me, Dr. Oz. I've been on so many different platforms and radio shows. Obviously, I've been on Michael Bazin's show talking about a documentary I was a part of, and just a whole host of things from pop culture, politics to social issues and everything in between. Talking about Kim Kardashian's ass, is it real or fake? All of that. So I do like fun topics as well. So I've done all those kinds of things, and I have had opportunities as a producer behind the scenes as well. So not just this recent project with ABC News 2020. Please watch it if you get a chance. It's on Hulu now. Check out Hulu, Diary of a Killer. I just recently dropped a Hulu series called The Conversations Project. I was not in front of the camera, but I was the story supervising story producer for that. Is 6 episodes on Hulu, so it's dropped on Hulu. It's digital; you can watch it anytime. And then I've done what you call one-offs, where it's just one episode. Soul Food Junkies is a film about soul food. A docu-series called uh, uh, Brick City, which is a documentary series. Everything in Newark is called Brick City.
Yeah.
So that was on the Sundance Channel many years ago, long before series was popular. This was came out about 2009, right around the time when Obama won his presidency. And I've done scripted things called Paris Blues in Harlem. It's a short scripted film about a guy. He's dead now. I did it in 2017. He was a fixture in Harlem that had this place where you can go and listen to the blues and get free food. You ain't got to pay for nothing. He was just great. So we did a film about him, and a film about Title VII, about literally Title VII and the equity of, when you're working somewhere, you should get equity as an employee.
Sure.
That was a scripted piece. So I've done a whole bunch of stuff that's been everywhere. So some things landed in film festivals, some landed on PBS, Independent Lens, Sundance Channel, Hulu, ABC News, and all of that. So those things have been very enjoyable. But also, too, I still continue to push my own projects. I have a project that I'm working on now called Blind Divas. It's a documentary about 2 blind women in New Jersey who are doing great things in the blindness community. They're leaders in the blindness community, and they're going to show you just how independent blind people can be, but they're going to be showing you the independence, not just through seeing a piece of their lives, but seeing the things that they can do in those lives through them being friends, but also business partners in a nonprofit organization that hosts lots of things for blind people to participate in that can showcase their independence, and that can also give them confidence that they can be independent. So you get to see all of that, but the film is still, in production. It's not done yet. So that's my project. And then another project I'm working on is a feature film about my brother, who is an Ethiopian Orthodox priest. And the film is called My Brother, the Ethiopian Orthodox Priest. So people people know that there are priests that are Catholic, but they don't know about Ethiopian Orthodox priests. So it's about the religion itself, because I want you to learn about an ancient religion. It's a 2,000 year religion. It's a very ancient religion. But I want people to also understand, whether you're religious or not, I'm not religious at all, that this religion in particular came to the United States at the height of the civil rights movement to re-engage Black people, because we had been out of slavery for a minute, Reconstruction, and then right around the civil rights movement, a lot of Blacks kind of ran away from religion because a lot of religions were a part of the slave trade.
Yeah.
Well, Ethiopian Orthodox religion has never participated in the slave trade. So there's a piece of history I'm going to add to the film as well. So my brother is basically the through line that's giving me the access to this sacred religion to tell the story about our history as it relates to our spiritual history, as well as showing you kind of what this religion is, because you're kind of curious. So I'm going to say that this film is going to show how the Ethiopian Orthodox religion, their trek to the United States and their mission here to the United States in the height of the civil rights movement was the Black Lives Matter of its time, or the spiritual Black Lives Matter of its time. Sure. Before we had the phrase Black Lives Matter. So those are my 2 independent projects. And going into 2024, I'm like everybody else. I'm always hustling to find freelance jobs. I got to pay bills and feed myself. It's very difficult for people, but especially Black women in particular, to maintain consistent and get consistent work in the field. And you know what Taraji said, and of course Monique Ben said it, and to get equal pay while you're getting these opportunities as well. So all of that is a struggle for me, no different than anybody else.
Yeah, thank you. And I think, one of the things that I'm really curious about is sort of those early experiences. That's why I was kind of touching on the, that earlier, Brick City, the magazine related position, that opportunity. Like, when I think of this, the sort of start of doing this podcast was Trump said something goofy about Baltimore. I got pissed, and I was just like, how can I disprove that through interviews with folks? And I felt like it wasn't just this city, it's cities like it. And Baltimore's like 70% Black. That's where I'm based. You see these the places that folks don't get the opportunity to share their story, and that hits all types of different
Yep.
communities. So that's going to be that entry point, right? And I learned in doing these interviews and talking with folks that folks really want to share their story. Folks have these really interesting things that connect. And, some of those early interviews, I'll say, kind of shaped how I go about things now of, oh, this question doesn't work, or this way of going about things. Initially, I didn't have the visual. I just only had like a black
Mhm.
screen. And
Mhm.
someone's like, I can't see your face. I don't know if I'm bombing or not. So I was like,
Right.
all right, let's get this camera right. So for you, is there an experience that when you think of projects that are forthcoming, projects that are in production, 2024, and onward, is there an experience that you look back to, pre-Lisa, early Lisa, and think like, all right, this is absolutely something that I'm coming back to now, in this stage of my career, like one of those early points, like I won't be doing that again, or I've learned from this experience in the past.
Well, no. The worst of it all, I guess, if you will, was the experience of kind of like coming to an awakening about, the real way racism happens. And it's not always overt. Like the experience I just said earlier about the man, he didn't say, you know, I want to make sure people know, tease up that these are going to be Negroes, but he was in essence saying that. So the biggest lesson was that racism is not always obvious and overt, right? There's internal biases and all those other kind of things. Um, so that was kind of like my hard, not a lesson, but my hardest aha moment or awakening, or like wow. But I will say the biggest, the most disappointing, if you will, or uh, the ongoing struggle, if you will, is the journey itself, not quitting. So even from that point forward, once I picked up this kind of multi-hyphenate thing about me where I'm not just on camera, I'm producing as well, in the in-between spaces where you feel a little safe when you get this like freelance job, right?
Yeah.
And then you go, and then it ends and you're back on the grind again. That space where you're always on the grind, and just like Taraji said, my last job did not put me in any position better for the next job. It's as if I never did the last job. No matter how successful I've been, no matter what I've done, just like Taraji, is you're at the bottom. I never got another job after the last successful job as a freelance producer. I'm just using that as an example where I didn't have to kind of act like I never did the job before and proving myself all the time. I never got that call saying you're put on, right? I have gotten one or two calls where they're like, oh, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Okay, I'll give you the example. I got a call. It wasn't like I saw something on LinkedIn and I applied for a job to be the producer for this 2-hour crime show special called Diary of a Killer. So I got a call from the producer. She's got a bigger position now, but at the time she was the producer. And she said, hey, what you up to? What have you been doing lately? She didn't even ask me about the job. So luckily I don't tell her my business. So I was doing another project, but I didn't tell her that because something always says, well, we're not friends. Why am I telling her my business? We're not friends like that. But so I just thought she was checking in on me. So I just said, oh yeah, I'm working at one of the community colleges a little bit and doing a little bit of something. So, and I didn't tell her I'm working on the Hulu project. I just didn't mention it because I felt like, why? Luckily, I didn't. If I had said, oh, I'm working on the Hulu project, she would have thought I was too busy. So I didn't mention it just because I just didn't. So she said, oh, by the way, I got a project I think I might want you to work on. So she mentioned this project. There was no title. And she said, okay. Now, I've been on this lady since 2006. I've been on it for a lot of years. This is like 2023 now. She's giving me this phone call around March. So I didn't just get the job because she's known me. She's seen all my projects. She sees me post. She knows what I do. I still had to prove myself. Not that I wasn't in strong consideration, because I'm sure because she did know me and know my background, I had some headway, but it wasn't like I was just like got the job on the strength of. I had to still send her my resume. She had to
Mhm.
still share it with Matt. She said, and she said out of her mouth, I can't promise you anything. She pitched the idea, said, sure, I'll send you my resume. It wasn't like it just came. So the struggle and the pain is the struggle and the pain. That journey, I'm not a journey girl. I'm a destination bitch. I want the destination. I'm like a kid in the car. Are we there yet? You know what I mean? You know, kids in the car. Are we there yet? I like a destination, but I can't change that there is no such thing as destination. You've got to do the journey. So the journey of having to continue to keep proving yourself, even though you've proven yourself because you're not at the top of the food chain. B, always being in and out of work because of the proving of yourself. It's not like you have this trajectory. I have a Hulu series out now. All these jobs are coming in. That middle part between you having your own projects and you needing to pay the bills is that middle part is the rough deal, and then that other end of it, you working for somebody else once you get a gig, the middle part where you got to keep getting a gig, to the part where the other extreme when you're doing your own projects, like I'm trying to do these other projects so I can become my own boss and mostly feed myself with my own projects. Do I give up? That's the struggle. All of that stuff is like in a pot of soup and all boiling together. That's a struggle. Do I give up? I'm not there yet. And age is an issue. As I age, I feel my mortality. I feel like I'm aging out. Not so much that I can't do something at 75 or 80, because people do that all the time, especially men. But I feel like, some things to me is a young girl's game or a young man's game. So it's all of those things that I have to fight in my head to overcome and just keep marching forward till death do me part from myself. But it's a very difficult thing because I don't have the faith. I don't have hope a lot of times. I'm hopeless. I make a joke to people who I know well. I'll say it on your show. People see me, oh, how you doing? Not good. People can't handle the reality. When people see me, oh, what's been going on, Lisa? How you doing? Not good. And they say dumb shit like, oh, not good. Oh, well, it'll be better tomorrow. Then I go, well, how do you know it's gonna be better tomorrow? Do you ever feel do you realize it could be worse tomorrow? So I just don't like those little stupid ass campy comments because people can't handle the truth. They're uncomfortable with the truth. So I try not to live my life in an inauthentic way anymore. I'm great, and I'm really not. I don't always give the details. So I try my best to make a promise to myself. And sometimes I'll say to the person, yeah, I don't have any hope. I'm a hopeless bitch or I'm a faithless bitch. And I just make a joke, but I really mean that. So what I try to do is I try not to abuse myself with words like hope and faith. I find those words to be abusive for me. So what I try to do is just do what I can if I wake up the next day. I do have plans, but I don't pine over them. So when I wake up the next day, I'll have my little notes and I'll go, okay, I woke up today. Well, here was my notes. Do this and this and this. And then I go to bed and wake up the next day if I can. So that's all I can do. Because if I actually try to think about the future, if I tried hard to think about what might be, I'm pitching this show, is it going to get picked up? And oh my God, or I was just on ABC News as the contributor, it's going to propel me. I have none of those thoughts because none of that stuff has worked for me. I didn't realize that being a Black woman is that difficult. Well, now I know I'm 50 something years old. So that's kind of the problem. So not necessarily specific incidents, except for the one I mentioned with the Brick City thing. Brick City, not the docuseries, yeah. The Brick City magazine show, because there was two things I did that had the name Brick City. So it's more of that. And of course, along the way, I'm sure that a lot of the reason why I'm not where I need to be is because of racism. So I'm sure that there's an odorless smell or odorless poison that I don't, and things are looming I can't see. I'm not in rooms saying, give it to Samantha, so I'm not in rooms like that. But I'm sure the reason why the trajectory isn't there with not just the Lisa Durdens, but a lot of folks who have talent is because if you're Black with talent, you're not the same thing as Becky and Karen with the talent. Or Bob and Ken with the talent. You're not going to get the same opportunities. And it's not an opinion, it's a fact. Yes, and people like to call out like 10 basketball players and 2 rappers and 1 Oprah. Sure, it's like Atlantic City. Atlantic City would be a fool if they didn't let people win, right? Yeah. If you never hear of people going to Vegas winning, you're not going to go to Vegas and play. Well, Vegas has to let a person win some money for you to believe you can be a winner. But we know that most people who are Black, I'm not going to say of color, because there is something called the proximity to whiteness. Other people of color have proximity to whiteness that we don't. If you have lighter skin and you're a Latino of some kind and you look light, if you're Indian, they dark as hell, but they still have proximity to whiteness because they're not quote unquote Black. But Black people, I'm talking about Black folks. So they're gonna make us believe we can be winners because they're gonna throw a couple of basketball players in front of us, a few rappers who live in mansions, and half of them are faking it too. But that's not most Black people, right? This is
true. This is true. And I'm hearing so many things that are affirming. I'll say that much because for the better part of once I got to the sort of second half of the year doing this, being an independent, doing my own thing, and having folks that are really prominent folks, editors in chiefs, and all of these different things, major people in various areas, various disciplines, saying, you're doing this on your own. You're an independent. You're making this happen on your own. So anybody backing you? I was like, no. And they're like, wow, you're really crushing it. You're having people in the radio industry, like from WNYC on down, saying, wow, you're doing this on your own. And then I encounter folks who want me to do the audition thing, who I've said this, I'll throw one of these your way. I think you might appreciate this. I was like, don't people of color yourself out of black dollars. And, folks will throw that out there. I was like, I don't use things. I kind of mean what I say as far as who I'm speaking with, what I'm applying to, what is the sensibility. And,
Right.
I made this effort because I got really frustrated. And I definitely relate when, folks will ask you how things are. And it's like, it's literally that, too soon to tell, or it kind of sucks right now. And,
Right. Something like sucks.
if you give folks an honest answer, what have you, it's like, I know how to turn it on. I know how
Of
to,
course.
move it around.
Lie.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it is one of those things. Like I recognize like what I'm doing and how I approach it. What I do sits somewhere between anthropology, documentary, and like storytelling. And I've had folks say, "Oh, you just do this." I was like, "No, this is what I do. This is what the intent of what I do is." And I don't have to worry about someone telling me what I do if I'm an independent. And that's what's
Correct.
so important to me in doing this and being able to have conversations like this. I joke about it all the time. I was like, I talk to people much more talented than I am, and then I steal from them. So I'm going to be stealing from you. I'm going to be referencing things that you
Oh,
said.
go
Like, if
deal.
I,
Yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, no. And so yeah, and so people, start bugging out when I forgot the gentleman's real name, the guy that played in the Cosby Show, and then he was working in a supermarket.
Mhm.
But so why y'all bugging out? So you presume that he was like this, had this wealth of this deep, wealth, like the vast ocean of money that he did the Cosby Show, and he's never going to be broke. And now I mean, not that now we've been knew black folks didn't get paid, fairly. So who knows what he got paid for the Cosby Show? And he wasn't there every day. He was a recurring character. So you're gonna bash this brother when he's feeding his family,
Yeah.
but then you would bash the brother if he didn't have a job. Because if he didn't have a job and was trying to think, well, until I get another role and like a cop, I ain't gonna do nothing. Y'all would say, well, you got to feed your family. So y'all can't have it both ways. So I totally understood this man's situation, and why are you gonna clown this man because he's working at a supermarket? He's got to pay his bills. You know what I mean?
When I do these different projects, there is this idea, and I've been an educator for like the last 6 months, like teaching like this next generation of podcasters, and it's a really cool opportunity because, like I said, I've been doing it for a long time, and when I talk to like some of these like 18, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds that are going into it, I'm like, don't fall for the thing, don't fall for the Joe Rogan thing, don't fall for the you need to have this many downloads, you're gonna make this much money, and so on. I was like, that's a pipe dream. I was like, what it is, do something that is of value to you, do something that speaks to you, do something that you're interested in, and try to have fun with it. I was like, this thing can eat you up, whatever the creative pursuit is. And this happens to be mine. Yeah. And, I made a point because I got kind of annoyed with the sort of fakeness of things. Like you connect with people, you're doing sort of these conversations that have this community orientation, that have this, people are sharing their stories. I take a lot of responsibility and showing folks in their best light and not asking them and wasting their time and things of that nature. And you think you're building something there, and you get a few too many of those. They feel like spam. Someone has your personal and they're like, hey man, how's it going? I want to let you know I'm doing this event. Be great if you come out. Tickets are this much. I was like, that's awareness. That's not an invitation. So when I started to pull myself out of some of these things that I felt that I was being, kind of taken for granted of what I'm doing and what I aspire to do.
So the person would be saying to you, come out to this thing and there's a price for this particular event.
Yeah. And it's just like this is going to sound wild, but it's like my presence is my, my fee. That's what I'm doing. I'm showing up, I'm being there, but also sort of what I'm doing. You have 700 interviews. You're helping people get their stuff out. I've known people who sold work from someone checking out the pod and it's like, oh yeah, I want to buy work from this person. I love their story. I don't have 700 reviews. I don't have 700 shares.
I take the attitude like this,
Hmm.
'cause I've been in many situations. I've had my own, cable show. I used to be one of the chasers on Chasing News for 2 years. I forget about that Chasing News. There was another on-camera opportunity that I was on for 2 years from 2018 to 2020. The show got canceled due to COVID. It was on My Nine. It was New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, the local area to New Jersey. And I was one of the quote, quote chasers or the A+ contributors and talked about the usual stuff, pop culture, politics, and social issues. So I've had a bit of a enough branding to know I have some of a name recognition on a at least localish slash somewhat global national level. But I don't look at myself, nor do I look at other people as there's a one-way value. So
Hmm.
when I'm being interviewed by people, you're not doing anything for me. And when I'm interviewing people, I'm not doing anything for you. The way I see life is it's cyclical, right? It's complementary. There's an intersectionality. So I feel like when I'm saying yes to someone to be interviewed, I'm helping them. And when they ask me to be interviewed, they're helping me. So we're helping each other. And I don't know, maybe if I was Oprah, I would think differently. I don't know how she feels, but I don't feel I'm going to be any different. If I was as big as Oprah or anywhere in between, if I grant an interview or if I ask for an interview and I'm giving an interview, I feel like we're doing it because we want to build each other. So I think the arrogance of people, not that they mean to be arrogant, it's just sometimes we don't think that way,
Sure.
can be sometimes the issue. So if we look at it as, you're not building me up anymore. In other words, if I never get an interview from Joe Blow, Jane Doe, or Susie Q, I'm still going to be Lisa Durden doing what I do. And the opposite applies. If a person never grants me an interview, right, I'm still going to be Lisa Durden without that interview. And they're going to still be there without that interview. So I think the most important thing that would be nice is if we didn't have the attitude that I'm without me, you can't be, and vice versa. So that's
That's
kind of like the ideal way to look at things, because in fact, that's what it really is. It's energies. I'm not like an energy girl, like, crunchy granola and, crystals thing, but I do believe in energy is a real thing because I believe in metaphysics. It's a real science.
that's
So I feel like when a person says yes, respect that. It took somebody, when I said yes to you, I had to get my makeup done. I had to pay for that. So I want to look good on the camera for you and for myself as well. When people say yes, understand that they're doing something to give you that yes. They're saying no to this time period. They're trying to make sure that they're there for you as long as you want to talk to them and they say goodbye. And vice versa. When a person asks you to come on their platform, respect that. Be on time. Try to do your best and be there. Don't be in a rush and really be present in the interview. So I think it kind of like it's complementary to each other. It's an intersection of two people coming together and hoping an outcome is good. That's kind of how I look at that.
that's such a great answer. And again, you're just affirming things that I had going on in this. You mentioned
Mhm.
the stew thing earlier, the soup thing, the stew of brain that I have. It's like, yeah, in those instances where folks reach out and they have me come on, they're like, man, you're like the OG. I was like, man, I'm just a dude. I'm here to kind of do this thing, or someone asked me to do a panel, or someone asked me to do sort of anything that fits within it. I'm going to run through like a sort of series of things like, can I say yes to this? And if I say yes, what does that mean? And
Mhm.
I'm balding, but it's like, look, I gotta hit the barbershop. I gotta get that trim, I gotta, all right, I'm gonna shower today, all of the things. But to make sure that, I'm on point to kind of give them what they're looking for. As you said, that it's that exchange, it's that sort of energy thing.
Exactly.
And, I try to put that in, and I'm always super appreciative of, when folks come on. And I had a conversation recently because, I have an entrepreneurial background, and I read you also have it obviously through your full background, early age. I read, um, I, I just kind of learned like because being an independent, there's so many different things that I'm doing. You don't even list like the fact
Right.
that I
Mhm.
book all of my people. It's like
Right.
you're a booking agent essentially.
Mhm. Yeah, it's hard.
It's yeah, and but it's an opportunity to learn, and I think the thing that's really cool about it, I read a lot of books around like artistic process and like
Mhm.
sort of creative journeys, and I'm one of the ones that stuck out is this idea of almost always trying to be a novice because you're able to like, you don't think that you're a master, and it's like, this is the only way to do it. It's like, oh, let me explore a little bit. I can learn how to do this in this way. You're not a one trick pony, and
Mhm.
you're able to do so many different things.
Well, this new word, I mean, I guess it's not that old, multi-hyphenate. I mean, I didn't think of myself as that. I'm just kind of grinding and doing what I got to do. I took jobs based on my skill sets because I need to make the money. But the one of the, as they say, lessons learned. Again, I didn't know this phone call was going to come in from the producer at ABC News 2020 about this project I just finished called Diary of a Murder. Diary of a Killer. I keep saying murder. Diary of a Killer. So before that, when that phone call came in, I'm like, okay, fine. So it was interesting. The call came in for a job that ended up something different. So when she called me for the job, she said, okay, here's what we have going on. I think you'd be great to be the editorial producer for the job. Here's what this job is to do. You cover the trial. You go to the trial every day. You take notes. You send us notes. You book people, right? People on the stand. You chase them when they get off the stand and ask them, can they give you an interview? Whether it be, the murderer himself, he never did take the stand, but I thought he would. His brother, family members of the decedent, police officers who were investigating the case, FBI agents, all of those folks. So that was the job. So she told me the job, but I said to her, I just can't do a job called editorial producer. I said, I really need the producer credit to help propel me to the next level, because I said to her openly out of my own mouth, I said, I want my own projects that I'm working on to get to the point where I'm not in need of other people. I can feed myself. And when you're applying for funding for documentaries, a lot of these bigger funders tell you the qualifications must be that you have been on a project in a prominent position, or you don't even qualify to apply. And they tell you the list of positions: director, producer, uh, uh, director of photography, editor. If you don't have any of those roles, you're not. They have smaller funders that may not have the requirement, but that it's $1,000. You need $300,000.
Right.
So ITVS, the Ford Foundation, a lot of these bigger funders who give you bigger funding want you to have said, to have proven to them that you can take this money and not blow it. So they want to see, have you been in a prominent position before? So that's their reasoning. Of course, it's also a weeding out process. They ain't gonna tell you that part, but nevertheless. So she was like, well, no, I can't promise you that. She said, but here's what I'll do. She said, Lisa, take the job, and what I'll do is, as we go along in the project, if you start to do other things like write the questions and do pre-interviews, I will promise you, I'll try to get you the producer credit, but I can't, I can't promise you that now, but let's see. So she said, I think this will be good for you. So she said, I want to work with you. She kind of just pushed me into, after I sent the resume, her boss said he liked the resume and she wanted to offer me the job. I told her, kind of like, no. So I said, okay. And then the money wasn't right either. So it's like, okay, whatever. It was $200 less than my asking, but whatever, my rate. So because I had known her for a long time, I didn't want to tell her no. I said, okay, girl, it is what it is. So I did it. But what I did was I got inside, like she said, and I actually did more and I got more. So I ended up going from the editorial producer to producer because I did the producing work. But more importantly, if I had not gotten in there and listened to her, sometimes you have to kind of like take a big step back to go forward. I would never have gotten in front of the camera because something happened that led me to say, oh, you need somebody in front of the camera to talk about, a journalist to talk about the trial. Well, y'all paid me to cover the whole trial. Why aren't you going to interview me for it like you do any other journalist? I was there every day. Use me. She said, that's a great idea. So then I got that, and that was never our conversation. So it all came together. So sometimes you have to kind of like, decide on, if you're going into a place in space, how can I take this place in space to get more for myself? And just shoot your shot, because what else can you do? So I just shot my shot and it worked out. In this one instance, I don't always shoot my shot and I don't always win when I shoot my shot. But this is one good example of when I got in, shot my shot and got everything I wanted plus more. That's one time in many years. So I guess I can ride on that into 2024. So it's those kinds of things that give you the courage to kind of keep moving forward, even though the struggle's real. You know what I mean? Or the energy, the wherewithal, the struggle's real. We don't. It's not as simple as. So that's another lesson I can tell other people, that they can realize, if you don't always do it, if you feel strong in your spot and the no is no and it's a strong no and you feel like this no can open up the next door, then walk away. In my case, I didn't feel a strong no. I felt like ABC 2020, but I didn't want this. So when you feel like, if you go like this, then it might be something to revisit. But if you go, oh, hell no, no, hell no, hell no, hell no, no, then that means it's a strong no. So I'm not saying take something that's a strong no. So that's kind of like how I felt about that situation. And I got more than what I bargained for. And by the way, well, I was saying that to say, and because I said yes, then all those years of skills I was using and they came to pass. So all of the skills of now being a producer showed up there. All the skills being an interviewer when I had my own talk show for a long time showed up there. All of the skills being a media person when I was on Chasing News showed up there. I just finished my master's in 2021. I got a master's in fine arts in social documentary filmmaking from the School of Visual Arts in New York. And now I can edit and all those things. All those skills showed up there. So I don't feel like, now thinking back, those skill sets are wasted, even though I don't use them all the time. But I feel like, wow, if I had not had those skills, and I used to say to myself, oh God, I can't take it anymore. I'm doing this other thing. Oh my goodness, I just don't want to do any more of that crap. What the hell? I edit, I don't feel like editing. And I can shoot. So a lot of those things came to pass in this project, and even in the project for Hulu. In fact, it's so funny. I can shoot. I just don't shoot that much. I'm not a cinematographer, but I can pick up a camera and shoot. I was actually working for the job here at ABC News 2020, and one of the camera people who was there wasn't shooting the gallery. We were able to shoot the trial, except for the jurors. So I just said, I'm looking in the viewfinder, and I'm thinking, because since I can edit, I'm thinking of editing. I can edit and I can shoot. So I'm thinking, we can probably use some shots of the people in the gallery crying and stuff so that we can cut to that in the edit. I'm thinking like an editor, although that's not my job.
Yeah.
So I tapped on homeboy's shoulder and said, listen, while you're shooting, make sure you turn the camera over and get some of the family. They're sitting over there, because that's the mother, father. I'm the producer. I know who the mother, father. I said, come over here. Here's the James raises some of his family is over here behind us. Get some of that. And when you see the lawyers go over there and pull big bags of evidence out, get that. I'm directing him. Now, I wasn't getting paid as a director, but I can direct. Because I'm a director. I'm directing Blind Divas, my documentary. I'm directing my documentary my brother's in, about my brother, the Ethiopian Orthodox priest. When I got my master's in fine arts, I had to direct there. So those skill sets, even though it wasn't my official title, all showed up there to benefit this project. They're all in there, except for I didn't get all the titles. But I knew I was aware of all the departments. I can do all those jobs. I can edit, I can shoot, I can produce, I can direct. So knowing all the departments and being familiar with them made it that much sweeter to be able to contribute in such a way, other than just sitting there taking notes in the trial. I'm making sure the visuals are right and tight as well. So don't worry about those skill sets. Sometimes they'll all come together and come to a head at one place. That happened to me, and I was like very shocked in a good way.
I love it. And, I see that as well. And I got two more real questions before I get to rapid fire ones for you.
Oh, God.
Okay. I see it as well. Like, I have a day job outside of doing this podcast thing, and the podcast thing, I love it, but it's not the thing that pays the bills, and we all got to eat. I like to eat. And, I'm a data analyst, and I have that background, right? And podcasting and the way I approach it is production and storytelling. Those two things intersect all the time. And folks look at me like I'm wild, like I'm crazy when I say I do this in the day job and I do that. They're like, oh, those are two desperate different things. It's like, no, they serve each other. One makes me better than the other. Like when someone comes to me about a grant and they think that, oh, I'm just an artist and I don't know how to tell a story. I was like, I have the analytics. You want it as a spreadsheet, SQL script? What you want? How you need it? And they're like, oh, wow. Or if I go to someone with pure numbers, thinking that I can't write a narrative around it, I can give you some English lit. What do you need? And I think in being able to do all of these different things, I so agree with it, because I sometimes when I get in front of large groups of people, because I don't do it regularly, I don't have the reps in it. Um, I get thrown off, and then I kind of write myself, and that's why I like talking to folks in sort of the theater space, because I'm like,
Okay.
so how
Hmm.
do you do this? How do you get those nerves over? And one of the things I learned from it is that I'm able to improvise and go with the flow really well. And this past summer, I wasn't feeling well because we don't have every day isn't a great day, right? And it's like a movie. It's the inaugural film festival in Baltimore, and they asked me to do it. I'm like, oh wow! And the wild thing is, I'm on this big LED board. I'm a 75-foot LED board. It has me on it all weekend. So all of the filmmakers are like, "You're the guy. You're the Rob Lee guy." And I'm like, okay, I'm now even more nervous because people have an expectation now. I'm like, I'm not going to flub this. So I practiced my intro, had all of my stuff ready to go. As soon as they're saying, oh, so we're about to do the shorts program, I forgot everything I was going to say. And I was like, oh, I'm going to bomb this. And I'm looking at how many people are there. And I'm like, all right, I know how to introduce a thing. It's like what I'm saying, they don't really care. Ultimately, I need to get to the point where I'm introducing these films. And I just rested on the fact that I know how to do an introduction, I know how to host a show. And, as I was saying with sort of the books and the references, there's a thing like that some artists do that they make their process weird, that they don't replicate it so they can like kind of go off the cuff and improvise. So I was like, I've done things in a guerrilla style. I've done things without having notes, without preparing.
Hmm.
And no one noticed the thing. My partner was there, and she was like, "You crushed it. I don't know why you all nervous." I was like, "I'm always nervous." I was like, "I'm going to the bathroom, throw up real quick," but
Yeah.
but it is one of those things. And after the film's finished, it was 10 films, and I'm going to talk to the filmmakers. And usually, I don't do a panel discussion like that. We're standing up. It's like 15 filmmakers, and I'm asking them like technical questions about their films. I'm like, we're not sitting down. This is very off the cuff. And
Hmm.
then I was just able to just get to that thing that I'm observing and just resting on those skills as an interviewer,
Hmm.
those skills as an MC. And, so definitely again, feeling seen, feeling heard, and what you were describing there with having those multiple skill sets.
Hmm. No, and I will say this as well. Two quick points.
Sure.
Um, those things happen, for example, now when I got the opportunity to speak in front of the camera on this special at ABC News 2020, A Diary of a Killer, we had already finished producing it. That was like back in May. Rolled around now. They booked me on October 12th to be in front of the camera, to now sit there and be in front of the camera to talk about the trial, and the decedent and the murderer, and talk about the elements around the trial, and be the journalist. So I'm now down in Georgia the week of October 1st, the first week of October. And then that Friday, I was on a panel. I was on a panel on Saturday. Then my throat started feeling a little funny. I thought, oh, I'm getting, get a little, allergy. Then the next day, I came back, the Sunday, I couldn't even talk. Now, that Thursday was the interview with 2020.
Hmm.
I don't know what their timeline is. I could have called the lady and say, I couldn't talk. I can't talk. I got to, reschedule. Lisa, don't play that. I went to my doctor that Monday morning, and I said, I need prescriptions. And whatever was going on, I didn't know I had bronchitis. I had a nasal spray prescription. I had some cough syrup prescription. I had a amoxicillin prescription, and I had some doggone a prednisone prescription, steroids. I don't know what they were. I took all the prescriptions. Monday, I got home, took the drugs. Tuesday, took the drugs. Sounded a little bit better. Wednesday sounded better. I was in that seat on Thursday because I knew instinctively this was a huge opportunity, and I wanted to try my best to see if I could make it. Now, if I got to Wednesday and my voice wasn't back, I would have had to cancel. But I said, let me put my best effort in to see if I can make this happen. So I made it happen. And now, fast forward, it's aired in December. So, sometimes you got to really like grind, and you're not feeling great and all those things. And that was also a lesson as well. And last but not least, I will say that if I hadn't gone to get my master's when I did, I would never have gotten that job as a supervising story producer for the Hulu series Conversations Project. Because when you go to get your master's in film, you have to edit. I was not an editor, I was a producer. So in the skill to do the job as a supervising story producers have to have some editing skills. You have to edit. So that got me there. So all of these hardships and these moments when you question yourself and, oh, I just can't go another day, sometimes lands on winner. And sometimes you land on loser, but I just kind of wanted to tell a couple of winner stories too. So just throwing that in the mix as well.
I appreciate that. And it's funny, again, as I was touching on earlier, I like when people make my job easier. So that one question, that two questions is now one, because you knocked one of them out. So thank you for that. So this is sort of the last real question that I have. And, it kind of touches back on it. I think I have an answer to it because you're you, and I like that, and I think when we're asked to, do certain, be a presenter, be a commentator, being sought after for a perspective, how do you sort of look through, like, all right, what's opportunity that fits, as far as who you are, as an individual? What are you interested in talking about? And how do you kind of like go through that process? Like, I take it that you're a very, straight, no chaser sort of person. It is what it is. So,
yeah.
How do you kind of go through that process of, going on, taking a gig, being brought on as a presenter, as a person, as a commentator, as a perspective and something? How do you go through that process?
Well, I've had many ways that it has happened. People have seen me in places and spaces and contacted me through social media. And I, as you did, right? I read my DMs, my inboxes, my messenger. I treat those like they're emails, although they're not emails. So I will read them and then I will try to contact you if I can. So I've had those scenarios. I've had a couple of scenarios where over the course of my career, I've actually paid and hired a publicist who might have relationships with media, and they go, my relationships are with this media, that media, the other media. And then they book me for speaking engagements, whether it be on television, not so much in-person panels, but that's been just kind of people see me in places and ask. But I've had that happen before. And then I've done them myself. I've kind of like done the same thing you've done. I've kind of like looked through people's social media, like, oh, that's the booker for this show, or, oh, that's the person that produced that. And I'll inbox them, hey, listen, here's what I do. Are you looking for this or that? Here's my resume. Or, oh, are you looking to have somebody on a panel for this and that? And blah, blah, blah. I'll give you a perfect example of something that happened. It was really, really weird. It's glad you asked that question. This will be a upbeat story as well. Maybe just 2023 was a little bit lucky for me. So same thing. So I've had all those ways in which I've gotten to speak in situations. So I saw a lady, and sometimes I look and see things and go, oh, they said this, I'm gonna hit them up then. So and sometimes it's been a referral. So this lady, Sheila Eldridge, she owns Cafe Mocha Radio. I am friends with, I'm linked in with her on LinkedIn. I don't know her from a can of paint. So I'm looking through the timeline. I'm seeing her saying, oh, we're doing the first annual HBCU First Look Film Festivals for students. And I'm looking at, oh, that's interesting, blah, 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 blah. And we're looking for partners with, partners. What does she mean? She didn't say anything specific, collaborators is what the word she said. Collaborators. I'm thinking, okay, okay. Well, I want to get to know her because she's got a radio network and I don't know what let me just see, it wasn't even something about radio. I just wanted to, I'm a filmmaker, what the hell? So I inboxed and said, hey, I saw what you posted on LinkedIn. I think I can be helpful. I can be a partner. I don't know what you're looking for, but here's my resume. I have lots of skills. It was a generic, inbox. She didn't get back to me right away. Took a couple of days. She got back and said, oh, let's meet. Then she didn't get back right away. And then she said, email me this. I emailed it to her. She didn't get back right away. Then she finally got back and said, let's talk on the phone. She didn't get back right away. I'm still doing this crazy hamster wheel follow-up. Yeah. And literally from the time I sent her the first inbox or message on LinkedIn to the actual phone call was 3 weeks of me following up. The chase. Mm-hmm. Got on the phone, talked about it. She liked my background. I said, yeah, so, I was looking at this. I said, so I can come on as maybe a curator and curate some films or help you, with some, maybe I can moderate some panels. I just kind of throw out the things I might be able to show. Yeah, so she's listening, saying, sounds great. That happened. She didn't say, okay, start doing these things. So it was kind of an odd thing. So then I was like, well, am I in or not? And she said collaborator. So I didn't ask her for any money because sometimes it's not always about money. Sure. So collaborate. So I just wanted to offer her my skills. But then eventually, over time, I just started to do something. I started to plug myself in just to do it. She didn't give me any directives. So I sent her an email one day and said, hey, listen, I've been curating some short films that we can have in the short films block. I sent the spreadsheet to you. Let me know what you think. The links are there. I did it. And then the next thing, oh, this. And I started doing things and she began to see, oh. And then she began to give me things. Then she said, Lisa, listen, we're doing this tour down in Atlanta, Georgia, where we need panelists. Would you like to be on the panel? That had nothing to do with that over there. Right. And that was the panel I was on in Georgia in October. I said, oh, I was on the panel. Okay, that's what I like to do. I was on 2 panels. And she said, well, do you know any other panelists? And I got her some other panelists. So that happened. And so on and so forth. And then, she said, listen, for the DC Film Festival, did you want to do a workshop? Yeah. So I gave her an offering of A, and then B happened. So it was just a weird thing. So once again, that was the second thing, that all my skill sets weren't there, but at least 80% of them were there. I brought her films. I'm a filmmaker. I curated films. I brought her opening night film, Rustin, and we did a panel discussion. I curated the closing night film, the crossover about how hip hop intersects music from the ESPN. It was a special. I curated that. Those are my relationships. Brought to the film festival. I did a workshop for her. So that was an example of that kind of thing that you're asking. So sometimes your job might come from another job. So my speaking engagement here didn't come from a direct speaking engagement ask. So my speaking engagement came from working within the system, and then the speaking, I was asked to speak down the road in the system. Then I get speaking engagements that are just people call and ask. And sometimes I hire, if I have the money, I hire publicists. And sometimes people inbox me. It's all those ways I've gotten opportunities to speak in front of the camera and or actually produce. So I've had all those things happen.
Thank you. Thank you. That's, it's great to hear that. And I think that folks listening to this, I know myself being one, receiving, can take from that, can take from that to apply to kind of how they go about their stuff. I mean,
let me say this real quick before you finish that point.
Sure.
Is anybody out there watching? As the saying goes, be ready so you don't have to get ready. I will say this: every single time someone called me, referred me, emailed me, or if I had a publicist and they said, can Lisa come on here? Even if it's somebody I'm hiring to get me speaking engagements, or even to get a teaching job in a college, or whether it be being a producer. Every time I was asked or I wanted something, I was able to pull the trigger on what you needed for me to get it. If you said, okay, send me your resume, that's the same day, not next week. If you say, can you send me your portfolio? That's the same day, not next week. If you say, can you send me some links to your stuff? That's the same day. You should have all of your tools in that toolbox, because people are also wondering how they're testing you to see, do you have what you say? Are you what you say you are? And all my stuff is out there. I have it on the ready. If I have a concept, they say you have a pitch deck, I send you the pitch deck. If they say, oh, you have a sizzle reel, if I say I got this idea, I'm gonna send you the sizzle reel. I am ready once my mouth opens and says I can do something, it's already packaged. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. That's definitely something that I've made sure that I have on point. It's like the podcast is here. Like, here's the links. These are some of my favorites. It's a curated thing. You don't have to go through the whole thing. Here's the updated resume. Here's the professional one and the, creative one if you want to see both. Miss Jackson if you're nasty. All of that stuff is kind of like and available. And even like what the rates are, for what I can do. And then always like sort of updating it. I don't want to have something that's stale. Oh, let me send you the new one, bro. No. The new one is already done. Here you go. You're supposed to check in and tap in on that every few months, I think.
Yeah.
When opportunities come up, as far as what the cost might be to do a particular thing, it's just like, and it's funny, you touched on it earlier as far as like certain opportunities. You're like, oh, well, the next step should be this. I did these series of interviews. Well, these next groups should be easy. That doesn't mean that's actually going to happen. It actually is not. So what I need to do as I do it, it's like, look, well, this is my rate now based on this, based on X amount of years of experience, based on this caliber of interview, based on these partnerships, based on these grants, all of these different things that I've done. It's like, this is the criteria and methodology, and being able to explain that because I'm a data analyst.
Right. I like the thing. Yep. You got the numbers. Yep.
So
yes.
let me move into the rapid fire portion.
All right, I'm ready. I like, I'm an ex-track runner, so I like to win. I be playing to win.
I
Stop playing with
mean, I got everything. I got everything from you so far. This
I'm
is
ready.
great.
Okay.
All right. So as I tell everybody, don't overthink these.
Okay.
So the first one is simple one. What was the last book you read?
The 1619 Project by I keep forgetting her name. 1619 Project, look it up. I love the book. Yes.
You said something earlier that definitely perked my ears up when it comes to as many things, but definitely the metaphysics thing came up. And
Yes.
that's something that's been, just diving has been super helpful for me, just navigating life, And so there's that.
Oh, Nicole Hannah Jones, 69. I'll keep on calling Nicole and leave out the Hannah Jones. Nicole Hannah Jones, 1619 Project. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So obviously metaphysics is there. What is something for you on a day to day that you have to do from a mindfulness, from a self care, however you deem it, but from that perspective? For some folks, it's getting up. They have to run every day. They have to lift weights every day. They have to get their
Right.
favorite coffee. What is something for you that you have to do every day?
Well, I used to be a former track runner, and you would think I would run, but I don't run a damn. I run from cops, dogs, and men. So I don't run anymore. And I'm in the Newark Athletic Hall of Fame, so I have nothing else to prove. So what I love to do is literally watch talk. I'm a talk girl. I watch all the talk. I watch talk shows. If I'm in the car driving, so I put my little ear pods in, and I might listen to something. It's not always a podcast, but I could have on something that's a visual thing, but I'm just listening to it as I'm driving. And I like talk a lot. So I love talk. So I'll watch The View if I can. I'll watch something on, YouTube that I like. It could be like, Comedy Hype News, which I'm getting a little, they're starting to piss me off a little bit because they're not doing the journalism right. But I love Comedy Hype News and just different kind of talks. I love Fox Soul shows, TGIF. I watch that. Crowned, which is new on the Black Network. I just love talk. So if I got my talk on and I'm drinking my little coffee, it's so good. I don't necessarily meditate because I live alone, so I'm always in a meditative state. So I don't have to talk when I'm like talking. So when I'm home, I'm not always talking. I'm in silence a lot. So I'm not officially home catering, So I'm not doing like an official meditation, but I'm always kind of in a meditative state because I live alone and I like the silence of being alone. I like the quiet. So the TV could be on in the background, but I'm not watching, but I'm kind of like just here. Sometimes I'll scroll through, my timeline and look and see something. But for the most part, that's kind of my meditation, just kind of like, being by myself and being okay with that. But when I'm interacting, I like the whole talk show thing. It's kind of weird. So I'm weird. Mhm.
This is the last one I got for you.
All
Um,
right.
and you're winning. So, shout out to you.
Winning!
I had someone make a reference to for this question. Actually, someone made a reference to it last week, which I thought was really funny. He mentioned a food I wasn't expecting. I asked him what his favorite meal was, and he was like, "Yeah, Baltimore's got some fire lake trout." And I was like, "Is that a throwaway?" I was like, "What? You just threw lake trout out there? That's just what we do." I was like, "But is that your favorite meal?" He's like, "No, no, no. I love noodles, like Asian noodles, but your lake trout is good." I was like, "You're just talking about food right now at this point." So I'll frame the question for you. That was just his response, which was really funny to me. And that was the last time I asked it. But for you, what is your favorite meal? Like, we like what we like. We have our comfort meals. What is your favorite meal?
Well, I don't have a favorite meal, but I have a favorite item.
Okay.
I can eat salad every day in three ways.
Okay.
I can either eat it before my meal. You go to a restaurant, have a salad first, and then you eat it before your meal.
Yeah.
So I can do it that way. I can eat it as my meal. So you can go and have like, salad for lunch, or you make it at home and you put a little grilled chicken on top, and it's a little bit of a heavier salad
Sure.
as your meal. And I can eat it with my meal. So I can have some grilled salmon with a salad on the plate, and all is my meal. So before the meal, as the meal, and with the meal, I can eat salad every day. So I don't
Okay.
have a particular meal, but I have an item. So salad's my favorite item. I can eat every day.
That is actually, I actually had salad for dinner. So,
Right.
salad
I
was
can
on
eat
my
it as a meal. So what, you put like shrimp on top or chicken, and what did you do with the salad?
It's a
Regular
little bit
salad.
of it's a little bit of an odd one. I try to, definitely get as many calories in it because, but I'm using like the Swiss chard and I had like some
Oh,
crab, I had like the good crab meat and it gets weirder. I had like some beans in there because I really wanted some beans to have that extra weight there. But it was definitely good, nice little vinaigrette with it. Nothing too intense, but definitely heavy on the crab because I'm in Maryland, and you got to throw that in there. But yeah, do you have like a favorite like ingredient you add in your salad? You mentioned the salmon, you mentioned the grilled chicken.
No, it could be grilled chicken. It could be. I don't do grilled chicken mostly because I don't like chicken breast. It's so dry. But usually like grilled shrimp or, salmon, grilled salmon if I'm using it as a meal.
Sure.
But if it's just not as a meal, I just like a leafy green salad or, a house salad. I like salad. If it's just like before the meal, I'll do it like that. But I don't usually do it heavy if it's before the meal. Mhm.
Love it. So that's actually it. We wrapped up with some
That was
food talk.
painless.
People always get scared.
No,
Um,
I ain't scared.
Never
I'd
scared.
have been in some. If you've been on Fox News, you can't be scared on any other network
This is true.
because I done gotten there and enslaved the dragon a couple of times.
So, in these final moments,
Yes,
one, I want to thank you so much for coming on and spending
thank
some time.
you. I appreciate the opportunity.
And
Yes.
and secondly, I want to invite and encourage you. This is the shameless plug portion of the pod.
Oh, okay.
To share, websites, social media, projects, all of that good stuff. The floor is yours.
Oh, now. Oh, okay.
Oh,
Well,
please.
shameless plug. Yes. Well, if you need something to watch between now and 2024 and you like some crime shows, y'all go to Hulu and check out Diary of a Killer. That's a crime show that I was a producer on, and I'm in front of the camera as an ABC News contributor. I mean, I'm saying it like that, but it really is a sad story about a person that murdered his baby's mother. And then if you need something, if you like talk, I love talk, watch on Hulu again. It's a series called The Conversations Project, where we have 6 short 30-minute episodes where Black folks get around the kitchen table and break bread and talk about the important topics we need to talk about. That's a great project. And listen, although I was not a part of this project, but I say go and watch Color Purple. I just saw it on the 25th of December. It's a great thing. And I also want to leave something with you guys. We talk about it, but let's be about it. Let's try to support each other by at least, you can't do it all. You can't be everywhere. But wherever you have a little bit of power, if you have the power to help a Black business, not every week, but make it your business to buy something from a Black business once or twice a month or whatever. Or if you're in the media, kind of interact with each other and help each other out and collaborate with each other so we can kind of move forward. We keep complaining about we're not in the power positions and we're not getting paid, but we can't keep doing this in silos and in our own lanes in vacuums. We have to really kind of like collaborate. And the best thing that I can say that proved that to me, although I didn't need to prove, was when I collaborated with the lady from the HBCU First Look Film Festival. I'm having a meeting with her tomorrow to see what more things we can do. I just offered myself up and it worked out to be more. I feel good about myself, not because I got to be on a panel in Georgia. That was good. Not because I got to do a workshop in DC at Howard when they had the film festival itself in November, the middle of the month, but because I was able to impact somebody just from what I thought I had to share, and somebody agreed. If I didn't say, hey girl, I have this to share, she would never have known that I have value. So why don't you just offer it up and somebody might see your value? Give it a shot. And then we all win and sing.
And there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Lisa Durden for coming on and sharing a bit of her journey with us. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, culture, and community in and around your neck of the woods. You've just got to look for it.